Okay, so I just recorded late. We just went through the chant, the invocations and whatnot. This is the fifth installment, the fifth video of the Yoga Sutra. Do you guys remember where we left off? What do your notes say? Was it the 40th? We're on 39 or 40? Ah, okay. Does that sound right, everybody? He says, Pete says 34. Yeah, Paul agrees. Yes, okay. 34. First chapter, 34th Sutra. Pracharana. Okay. Yeah. So I like to start with we stopped on 34. So I like to start on 33. And that's been sort of the theme, right? For the thing we do. We start with the one previously to kind of catch up because again, this is a train of logic, a train of sutras. Sutra means suture. 33rd Sutra, Maitri, Karuna, Murito, Pekshanam, Sukha, Dukkha, Punya, Punya Vashyanam, Bhavanatas, Chitta, Prasaranam. 4 attitudes of a yogi. This is known as the 4 attitudes of a yogi. The sutra is a social sutra. To reiterate, he's giving many ways to achieve the state of yoga. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to do asanas, you don't have to do pranayama, you don't have to devote yourself to a higher power. You can do a lot of different things to achieve the state of yoga, which is mental quietude or samadhi. Different folks, different strokes. What a guru does, a teacher, is takes the student's capacity, temperament. It's like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the particular student, and then assigns the particular student a different practice. Again, this book, it was meant for teachers, not for students. I've said that in the very beginning. You guys remember that, right? This is meant for teachers to teach students, not meant for students to study necessarily. So with that said, a teacher can look at a student and go, oh, your temperament, your likes and dislikes, you're a highly rajasic person. You'd like to move. It's really difficult for you to sit still. Then you would probably like asana practice a lot. Meditation is going to be really hard for you unless you really want to dive in. If you can't control your rajas, your tendency to move around and be fickle, then maybe your practice is karma yoga. Maybe your practice is karma yoga. Whereas another person, anything you tell them, they cry. They cry. They have feelings. They cry with sadness. They cry with happiness. They cry with fear. Everything makes them want to cry. So that person is a highly emotional person. So then that person should take on the practice of Ishvara Pranidhanatva, the 23rd Sutra. Remember we talked about that. Surrender to something greater, higher than yourself. So Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the Lord. So different practices, right? Different strokes for different folks. Here he's giving you a social parameter. What do? You cultivate 4 attitudes towards 4 objects. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. 4 attitudes. Friendliness, Maitri means friendliness. Maitri means friendliness. Maitri, Karuna means compassion. Karuna means compassion. Maitri, Karuna. Mudita means like a vicarious enjoyment, sort of a pride, like enjoying a happiness that is derived from someone else's success. Okay, mudita, a happiness that is derived from someone else's success, a vicarious joy. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. Upeksha is non-judgment, indifference, or non-bias. So if you cultivate these 4 attitudes towards 4 objects, what are the 4 objects? The objects are Sukha, Dukkha, Punya, and Apunya. Sukha means happy ones, people who are happier than you. Surround yourself with those who are happier than you, and it'll lift you up and calm your mind. Surround yourself with those who are happier than you, it'll lift you up and calm your mind. Sukha, Dukkha. Dukkis are Dukis are dukis. Dukis are those who are unhappy, those who are in a state of suffering, if you will, mental suffering. So he would say, cultivate an attitude of friendliness towards them. No, compassion. You should have compassion when you see someone less happy than you. When someone is less happy than you, have compassion. But the ego doesn't have less compassion. The ego wants to be, well, the Western version of the ego, at least. The Western version of the ego says, feels happy when people are less than you, right? So he's trying to change the way you see things, right? Cultivating different attitudes towards different objects. So having compassion towards those who are less happy, and dukis, those who are suffering. And when you reach a level of happiness from the practice of yoga, you will find that most people are less happy than you. Maiti karuna mudita. Mudita is a vicarious joy. When he develop an attitude of vicarious joy when you see other people doing punya karma. Punya karma. Punya karma, Sanskrit, it means good or virtuous. Virtuous. Punya means virtuous. Karma means action. So here, punya, he doesn't say karma, but it's punya, punya, punya and apunya. Punya is virtuous karma, and apunya means vice. Vice, people who do bad things. So people who do good things and people who do bad things. So if you experience people who do good things, your attitude that you should cultivate is mudita. You should feel good and happy. You should feel good. You should feel good. If you find yourself feeling bad when someone does something good, you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Like, what am I doing? Why am I feeling bad when someone does good? Then you realize that's not you, that's your ego mind. There's a part of you that wants only good for you, doesn't care about anything else, right? It's very selfish. Then the last one is apunya karma. Apunya karma. When you see people do vice, things of vice, what happens? Tamasic people laugh. Ha ha ha, look at them here. So they're suffering. They're doing something bad to someone else. It's comedy. As a matter of fact, we find a lot of comedy to be like that. We see someone else stub their toe and we laugh. Ha ha ha. Someone else is suffering. We laugh. So, but if you can check yourself and start to cultivate a different attitude, you'll find that your mind will calm. This is a social sutra. So cultivating these 4 attitudes, Maitri, friendliness, compassion, vicarious joy, and indifference or non-judgment towards people who do bad things, feeling good when people do good things, be appreciative, right? Be appreciative when someone does good things, have compassion for those who are suffering, and surround yourself with the people who are happy. If you do this, then you will get chitta prasadanam. Chitta refers to the mental warehouse, the mental space, the area in which every experience takes place in your life. Prasadanam means clarity, like a pure diamond. It reflects perfectly. White light comes in, white light goes out. Red light goes in, red light goes out. It doesn't change the color of the light. Like impure crystals, impure gems change the color of the light. That's why they appear one color. White is a combination of all colors. You guys realize that, right? White is a combination of all colors. White is not a color. White, clear, it's a combination of all colors. That's why when white light goes into a ruby, it comes out red. It distorts the colors. It takes all the other colors out and just shines red. Likewise, an emerald will take in all white light and only project green. So these are the minds of humans. We take in information that's pure, and then we shoot information out that's impure. Right? Make sense? But when you get chitta prasadanam, then the information is clear. It goes in, comes out one way, and goes out the same way. There's no conditioning of the experience. Yeah? All right, so that's 33. Maitri karuna mudito upekshanam sukha dukkha punya apunya vishyanam bhavana. Bhavana is this feeling. Bhavana tas chitta, then your mind, chitta prasadanam, becomes clear. That's 33. 34. Now this is the second method. There are 7, he says. I think 7 methods. This is the second method. What is the second method? This is how you can also calm your mind. Inhale and then exhale, hold your breath out. That is it. Just exhale and hold your breath out. It's pracharanam, pracharanam. Pracharanam means complete exhalation, complete, not partial, but fully exhale. You know, it's doing Uddiyana Bandha. He doesn't mention it here, but that you do Uddiyana Bandha. You exhale completely, you hold your breath out. While you're holding your breath out, you do Uddiyana Bandha, lift the belly in, up. And if you're in a seated position, you'll do Mahamudra. You'll do, tuck the chin, pull the belly in and up, Jalandhar Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Mula Bandha. The three bandhas. Hold your breath out, keep your breath out, and repeat. Inhale again, exhale, hold the breath out. How long can you hold the breath out? Learn to hold the breath out longer and longer and longer, and your mind will calm. It won't calm in the very beginning. You're going to panic in the beginning. A lot of panic happens. Death, I'm drowning. But once you get control of the breath, exhale, hold. And repeat. And just keep doing that over and over again until you can keep your exhale longer and longer and longer. Then your mind will calm. Pracharana. Pracharana means complete exhalation, complete expulsion. Dharana means hold. Vidarana means hold. Holding the breath out. And then va or pranasya. Pranasya refers to the breath, prana. So I think we ended the session last time with the Kapalabhati practice or Bhastrika practice. Is that right? We did so when you do that, you can realize a longer retention with your breath out. Did we talk about that? We also talked about the stupefied breath, where there's no impulse. Did you watch the video? Yes, there's no impulse to inhale or exhale. At any given moment, there's an impulse to breathe in, there's an impulse to breathe out, right? At any given moment. But once you're able to get that breath to not have an impulse to breathe in or out, or make it real subtle, where the breath is like doing this, the inhalations and exhalations are so shallow and so slow. It's almost as if you're not breathing. Your mind will be clear. It's that desire, it's the thirst for the breath, the hunger for the breath. Inhale. I got to inhale, I got to exhale, I got to inhale, I got to exhale. That feeling disturbs the mind. Right. Okay. 35. 35. 35 is the third method. Third method. Okay, I have something else to say about these sutras. The first sutra, I said the 33rd sutra is a social sutra. That is for one with friends. Some yogis have friends. Some yogis don't have friends. And so there are some sutras that are applicable to recluses or hermits. And there are some sutras that are applicable to the social yogis. That makes sense? The exhale one is for a hermit. Your friends would probably think you're weird. Unless you're a yoga teacher, then you're automatically weird, I guess. Okay, so this third method suggests coming to a one-pointed mind. Coming to a one-pointed mind, keeping the mind on one object alone. Are you sure we didn't go over this? Okay. Vishaya, Vishayavati, Vishayavati is making the mind take on the form of the object. Let, so what does that mean to let the mind take on the form of the object? The mind is like, the mind is formless. I love what Bruce Lee says. You ever seen Bruce Lee talk about water? Be like water, my friend. Water can, if you pour water into a kettle, it becomes a kettle. If you pour it into a cup, it becomes a cup. Water can crash. It can flow. It can be light. It can be heavy. The mind is like that as well. This is Bruce Lee's little talk. I love it. It's beautiful. The mind, the mind takes on the form of whatever experience you're having. If you're having a, I don't know, blissful experience, the mind will take on a blissful form. If you're having a scary moment, it'll take on a scary form. If you're looking at a circle long enough, it'll take on the form of the circle. If you look, it makes sense? If you look at, for example, and this is maybe not the best example, but if you look at the moon or like this, don't look at the sun, but if you look at a bright light or even a candle flame, you look at it long enough, you close your eyes, it's still in there, right? It's the image is still in your mind. So the mind takes on the form of whatever it is you're experiencing, whether it's visual or emotional. Here he's saying, make your mind take on the form of an object. It's usually an object of choice. So in the yoga tradition, it's usually like an icon, a statue. We call it murtis. Murtis, you ever heard of the word murti? Murti means statue, literally. But there are these, these icons. Like if you look at my altar, you see a bunch of little murtis, like a Ganesh murti. There's a Shiva murti. David Williams gave me a Shiva murti a long time ago. He goes, what do you say? He goes, you're one of us now. Shiva takes care of his own, and gave me a Shiva murti. So sort of an initiation into the yogi lineage, if you will. But so that you focus on that and you stare at it, and then your mind takes on the form of the murti. It's the same thing that Christians do when they go to church. Maybe they stare at the cross, Jesus on the cross. They stare at the cross, and the mind takes on the form of Jesus on the cross. It's the same idea, same principle. Your mind takes on the form of whatever it's experiencing. And va means or. Sorry, guys, time out. I gotta grab my readers. Weird. It's the aging thing. Bald and blind. Woo! All right. Oh, yes, much better. Okay. Yes?
Are yantras, are those things that
Yes.
that would be like an example of a murti?
No, a murti is a statue. Murti means statue. So yantra is a diagram. It's a bunch of triangles, specially shaped. Very hard to make actually because it's very precise and they're not the same size. But yes, that's. You guys know what yantras are? You guys know what yantras are on Zoom? So Pete asks, is a yantra like a murti? So just real quick, you guys. So I'm gonna do this yantra, and then I'm gonna show you a little screen share. Yantra, Sri Yantra. These are yantras. Oh no, yeah, these are yantras, and they symbolize things. So his question was,
would that be applicable for this sutra? Like, would you look, instead of looking at a
Murti. Yeah. Yes, this will work. This will work too. Yeah, this will work. You just got to get one pointed, whatever it is. So his question was, will a yantra work for the sutra? Yes. The yantras are not murtis, but yes, it's an object. So in the sutra, he just says object. Make the mind one, take the form of an object. I was using the murti as an example. Okay. But yeah, yantra is fine. As long as the object's uplifting. You can even look at a swastika, but you have to understand that the swastika is a symbol for prosperity, not the symbol of hate. It's like flipped. Swastika is actually Sanskrit. It's the form, the two. Anyways, but it's been perversed. Is that right? Is that the word? Okay, I can't get back. How do I do this? Stop. Okay, there we go. Did we lose somebody? I think we lost somebody. Okay, we'll move on. All right. So yes, vritti refers to the activities of the mind. Pravritti refers to the state of the mind. Utpana is making it arise in the mind. Manasya refers to the mind, and stiti like samastiti, stiti is steadiness. And bandini is achieved or held. So when an object is held, and how do you hold the object? It's an object with the senses. It's an object with the senses. The object has to be with the senses. It can't be an object that you just think about, like an imaginary object. It has to be an object that you perceive with the senses, particularly the eyes. Particularly the eyes. But can a blind person do this practice? Yes, it has to be a sound. Then you're going to go into the realm of nada yoga, which is another discussion. Nada yoga, that's for people who can't see. So again, this is the third method. Suggests that coming back to a one-pointed mind, ekagrata, one-pointed mind, by keeping one object alone in front of the mind. According to the yogis, one doesn't have to have an actual object in order to experience the object. A scent of the flower can also be an object. It's just with the senses, right? So you got eyes, sense, nose, ears, taste. But Krishnamacharya would say, no, don't do that. He would say, don't play with the senses like that. Just try to stick with the eyes if you can, because playing with the senses can give you powers, and powers will distract you towards the goal, away from the goal. Another example is keeping ekragra on the tip of the tongue. So what happens is if you get really good at this, you can smell an object without having the object. You can see the object without, it's just using your imagination. Your imagination becomes so powerful that I want to smell a rose. Yes, I smelled the rose, but there's no rose. So then I think when you get to that level, it becomes unclear what reality is. Whereas if you have an actual object that you can look at, you can still stay in touch with reality. Make sense? Yeah. I think that's why Krishnamacharya said that. Again, this is what I heard from Ramaswamy. I wasn't there. Yeah, Krishnamacharya says this is not a good approach, as the yogi will become attached to the sensations. The yogi will become attached to the, that's why you don't do that. Okay. 36. This one is the fourth method. I've used this method with my clients oftentimes. Vishoka. What does Vishoka mean? Shoka means depression. Shoka means depression. Many people are depressed. Yes? Many people depressed, especially after the pandemic. So many people depressed these days. Vishoka. Vishoka means without depression. Vishoka means without depression. As a matter of fact, let's talk about depression real quick. The World Health Organization, I remember back, maybe 10 years ago when I was giving lectures as well, that the World Health Organization said that by the year 2030, I think it was 15 years from when I think remember at that time, I said 15 years from now, The World Health Organization predicts that mental health will overtake heart disease as the #1 burden or killer, or not killer, but that which makes people invalid or invalid, handicap or unable to work. Mental health will overtake heart disease as the #1 burden worldwide. And if you look at the stats, we're heading there. And that stat has not changed. This is a very powerful shloka or sutra. So what it says is that without depression, va, or jyotishmati, jyoti means light. Jyoti means light. Jyotishmati, mati means making or thinking of. So in other words, if you think of light, depression goes away. If one can bring the mind under control by looking at a flame or imagining it in the heart, So there are some meditations that I give where you close your eyes and visualize a light in between the eyes, where the spot where the two eyebrows meet is where your third eye is, right where they meet. And you imagine a light there in your meditation. Then your depression starts to go away. It can be felt within one session. Another way to do it is to imagine the same light in the center of your heart. Not the physical heart, but the heart chakra, the sternum here, right in the center. There's a space next to the thumb, to the right of the physical heart, the size of a thumb. There's a little cavity there. You just imagine a light spinning. Or you can imagine the sun. Again, with the light practice, you can get a candle and stare at the light. You place a light in front of your face, and then you stare at it. And then when you close your eyes, that light will appear to be between the eyebrows. The candle's right here, and you stare at it, and then you don't blink, and then you close your eyes, and it'll be right there. It'll stay right there. You can see the form of the flame. That also helps depression go away. Very powerful sutra. But you have to be very clear about it. Your mind can't wander and think about other things when you're doing this practice. You got to concentrate on the light. Think about the light. Be one with the light. That light has to consume your mind. Your mind has to take on the form of the light. There's a saying that where there is light, darkness cannot exist. Is it true? Where there is light, darkness can't exist. Where there is darkness, there is no light. Is it true? Can you think of an example where there is darkness when there's light? You're probably going to think shadow. But a shadow means absence of light. Isn't it? Yeah. Darkness cannot exist where there's light. So if your mental space is filled with darkness, tamas, darkness, depression, sadness, confusion, ignorance, then you fill your chitta with light. This is the technique. You fill your chitta with light, imagine the light, use your mental powers, create the light in there, and it'll remove the darkness. I've tried it on my clients and it works. I've tried it on me and it works. In the morning, you ever meditate in the morning and watch the sunrise? Watch the sunrise. It's okay to watch the sun when it rises. It's not good to look at the sun when it's high noon. Do not look at the sun there. It's only when ideally you're on a mountaintop, really, but that's science and physics. But it's the angle in which the sunlight enters the atmosphere and bounces and stuff like that. But it's safe when it's coming in on the horizon. But if you can watch the sunset in a meditation without blinking your eyes, or watch a sunrise, then you can see it kind of. The light comes before the sun breaks the horizon. The light, and then it breaks the horizon, and then you see it, you watch it rise. Now imagine the same thing happening in your heart. That's the practice. Imagine the sun rising in your heart. So imagine a candle flame or imagine the sunrise, not the sun itself. You can do that. That's another practice, Gayatri mantra, right? Imagine the sun. But you can also imagine the rising of the sun. It's very precise. The sun will rise within about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, the full sun, depending on where you're at, I guess. And also the sunset. You ever watch a sunset? If it goes down, you can like literally see within minutes it's gone, then gone. Poof. Same idea. So don't meditate on, don't visualize the sun setting, visualize the sun rising in your heart. That's the technique from Krishnamacharya. Imagine rising sun in the third eye when confused, or the heart when in despair. Do you get that? Imagine the sun rising in the third eye when confused, and in the heart when in despair. Light removes obstacles. Light is considered sattvic. Sattvic. Light is considered sattvic. As a matter of fact, light is mentioned in most religions. Light is mentioned in most religions. Since we're on the topic of light, think about this. You cannot see anything if there wasn't for light. You wouldn't be able to see anything if it wasn't for light. Would you guys agree with that? So in your mind, in your chitta, what is it that's lighting up what you see? What is the light in your mental field? Because if there was no light, you wouldn't see anything. But we know that if you close your eyes, you see stuff, right? What is it that's lighting up your your mental warehouse? Consciousness. Consciousness is light. You're not supposed to talk. Consciousness is light. I am the light. That's what it means. Without awareness within your mind, there's nothing to see. Lights out. Get knocked out, lights out. There's nothing to see. So think about that. Consciousness and awareness is light itself. So when I don't know if this is what people mean when they say this, but when I hear people say, I am the light, it's saying that I am this spark of divinity that illuminates my experience. I am the spark of divinity, a spark, literally a light. The Jews, love the Jews, love my Jews. I sold cars to 2 rabbis. They liked me. I like my Jews. In the Torah, is that the Jewish thing? If you go into Jewish mysticism, they explain the soul as being a spark. Actually, many sparks. It's the same idea. It's a light, spark of awareness, a spark of divinity. The light of knowledge, the light of awareness. It's all about the light, folks. Not getting too woo-woo here. I mean, I think it's pretty actual and not woo-woo. I'm not really into woo-woo personally. If it makes sense intellectually to my intellectual mind, and it's like I can scientifically understand it, then I'll buy it. But if it's not, like, for example, with the grounding technology, I wasn't into that. I was like, oh yeah, that's, this tree hugging thing. That sounds nice. I mean, I get it. I love the earth too. But once I saw the science behind it, I was like, oh. And then when I tried it, I was like, oh, my hands are feeling better. All right, 37. Moving on. I was digressing there. Vitaraga. Vitaraga. This is the fifth method. Fifth method. Remember I said there are 7. Fifth method, vitaraga, vitaraga. Raga means attachment, rag, rag. In Indian music, you have melody, which means melody is raga. Raga means melody in Sanskrit, but it also means attachment. Why is melody attachment? Because it's a sound that you can't get out of your head. It's the melody. You remember the sequence of sounds. You can't get it out. So raga, it's attached. Melody. Anyways, raga means attachment. Vitaraga means one who's given up attachment. One who's given up attachment. What does your book say? It says something else, doesn't it? It says desire. Same thing. Same thing. So one who's given up desire, one who's given up attachment, one who's become desireless. A vitarag means a person who's desireless. Desireless. So giving up, vita means giving up, raga means desire, passion, attachment, personal agenda. Raga means also personal agenda. Vishayam it means object, as we said earlier, but here it refers to the person. Va means or, and then chittam, mind. So in other words, the fifth method is by meditating on a vitaragi. What's a vitaragi again? Desireless person. Thank you. One who is desireless. Do you guys know anyone who's desireless? Not personally, right? Most of us are full of desires, as Bhagavan says, endlessly chasing our desires, endlessly and joblessly chasing our desires, and never having them fulfilled to 100%. Never. And so we're on this sort of wheel, like a hamster, chasing our desires. And on the other side of the hamster wheel is this rabbit on a fishing pole. We're just constantly chasing it. So what he's saying here is that if you want peace of mind, think about someone who's desireless. And it's usually the saints. It's usually the saints, right? And how do they act? How do they behave? I think more specifically, it's not necessarily the saints, because some of these saints take on like activism and political stuff. You see, not all, but they have desires. They have a desire to do something. But you look at the yogis, the monks, the nuns. They seem to be desireless. How do they act? You really rarely meet a desireless one. How do you know someone is desireless? Well, there's not really anyone who's fully desireless. A person who sits in a cave for 6 months at a time is probably desireless. But then you can argue they have a desire to stay in the cave for 6 months. Right? It's an argument. There's a word called sannyasi. You ever heard of sannyasi? 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 Sannyasi. I think it's sannyasi. Someone can look it up on their computer. Sannyasi. It means one who is a renunciate. It means a renunciate. A renunciate is one who's desireless. They have renounced their desires. They're usually wearing garb, like purple in the case of Osho's sannyasis. Remember Osho, the documentary on Osho's, the wild something rather? No, okay. Or you see swamis wearing orange, the garb, or monks wearing brown. But those guys have given up a lot of things. They're desireless. So see how they act. A yogi who's fully committed to the renunciate life will not stay in one place more than 3 days. They are wandering yogis, literally. And the reason they do that is because they don't want to get attached to any one place. They have absolutely no attachments. They might be attached to their begging bowl and their trident and their loincloth. That's all they have. It's like a walking stick, a begging bowl for food, and stuff to keep their. Some of them they even get rid of that. The Naga Babas, they walk there naked, covered in ashes, naked, covered in ashes with dreadlocks, with begging bowls. Some of them even get rid of that. So, those are the ones he's talking about. Those are vitaragis, desireless ones.
You argue that there's a desire to be desireless?
Yeah, that's the argument. But and then there are lots of charlatans too. You know, they're fakes out there. That they're not really yogis, but they look the part. They may speak the part, but they may not act the part. So vitaragis are important for us to know, because vitaragis are the ones that you should go for advice. Why? Because they are unbiased. They will tell you the truth. They have no agenda. Everyone else has an agenda. So if you can find that place in you that is desireless, you will often find people will come to you for advice, because you tend to give advice that is unbiased. You know, when I was going through my divorce, depending on the friend depending on the answer I wanted to hear, I went to different people, because I wanted subconsciously wanted people to tell me that I'm right, and those aren't the people that you want to get advice from. It's like an echo chamber. So a vitaragi is not an echo chamber. They will tell you unbiased truth. Okay, 37, 38, 38. Sixth method. Sorry, I had a thought. I've been watching Demon Slayer, my daughter, and with Pete. Water breathing, sixth form. Is you guys not familiar? Okay, never mind. Huh? Sixth method. Swapna. Swapna. Beautiful word. Swapna. Swapna means dream. Means dream. Swapna nidra. Nidra means sleep. Nidra means sleep. Jnana. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom. Jnana means knowledge or awareness or wisdom. Alambana. Alambanam. To support, to think about. So this is interesting, because I mentioned this to Pete this morning. Is to by contemplating on restful sleep or blissful divine dream, one can have mental clarity. By contemplating on restful sleep or a blissful divine dream, except I didn't explain it like that this morning. I explained it a little different, but I told Pete, pay attention to your dreams. Don't take it with a grain of salt, but if they're blissful and they're divine, pay attention to them, contemplate on them, remember them. Because the memory of your dreams don't last more than a few minutes usually. So it's good to take notice in the morning before they fade, right? If you try to recall a dream at the end of the day, Yeah, good for you.
I can't remember that.
Yeah.
Like when I get into almost like that dream state, I can maybe like kind of that state that you can remember more.
Yeah, but that's not for most people. Most people forget their dreams. As a matter of fact, most people say they don't dream. I'm like, you dream,
I like cities made of my dreams.
huh?
I like to have cities made of my dreams and all the.
Inception, you have inception dreams.
Yeah, I do. It's literally the same city, all like the same layout. Miami looks completely different in my dreams.
So Danielle's talking about how she creates cities. She has very elaborate dreams. So just pay attention. Just at the end of the day, just pay attention to your dreams, but take it with a grain of salt. But pay attention to them. There's definitely value in the dreams. This is mostly for religious people. The divine dream. Okay, remember when we talked about the gunas? The gunas, Rajas, Sattva. I'm sorry, Rajas, Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. All right, so you have what is Rajas? Rajas is the energy of movement, or the quality of movement, movement and passion, fire, and yes. So you have Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Rajas is fire, passion, attachment, anger, jealousy when it's out of hand. But it's this sort of greed, right? This greed energy, not in a good, not in a bad way. It is. It's just this thing, the energy where you want to accumulate and get, accomplish, right? And then you have this sattva energy or quality, and sattva is clarity, lightness, wisdom, compassion, intelligence. And tamas is darkness, sluggishness, heaviness, confusion, sadness, depression, and stability. All right. Activities can be classified as sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic as well, right? So if you're doing activities like hurting people or anything that deals with death or sadness, alcohol, stuff like this, these tamasic activities will produce a tamasic experience in your sleep. Likewise, rajasic activities will produce a rajasic experience in your sleep. Make sense? Sattvic activities, if we're on the same line of logic here, will produce sattvic experience in your sleep. Okay? So, with that said, remember the sleep and the dreams after sattvic activities. If you, like, say, for example, go out and what's a sattvic activity? Give me an example of a sattvic activity. You can unmute yourself and chime in if you want, if you're over there on Zoom. Can somebody give me an example of a sattvic activity? Saying mantras is definitely sattvic, yes. Yes, meditation, yoga. Volunteer work? Volunteer work is sattvic. Helping an old lady cross the road, right? Giving a compliment to somebody without expecting anything in return would be considered sattvic. Giving a compliment and expecting something in return would be rajasic. Same action. What else? Caring for your child is sattvic. Comes from a place of love, doesn't it? Hopefully. So think about these types of activities. And if you have a day full of these sattvic activities, or you have a few moments or hours of that activity before rest, before sleep, remember the dreams that come about from those activities. Those are divine experiences, and those will help to clear your mind. Okay. 7th method, fire breathing. 7th form. If you're into anime, watch it. It's yoga and martial arts all together. 7th method, 39th Sutra. Yata, in whatever way. Yata, in whatever way. Abhimata. Abhi means one's chosen or favorite. Mata refers to religion. Dhyan means meditation. We haven't gotten there yet in the 3rd chapter, or in the 2nd chapter. But dhyan means meditation. It's a 7th step in Ashtanga Yoga, dhyana. So here he's saying, this is for religious people, obviously. Taking on your favorite religious practices and meditating on that. So different religions have different practices. If you're used to a particular religious practice, stick to it. You know, a lot of people say, well, yoga is going to take me away from my religion. Well, yoga is telling you to stick with your religion. He's saying right here, he goes, stick with your favorite religious practice and meditate on it. In Hinduism, they have, you pick your favorite deity. Everyone has a favorite deity. And the 6 most popular ones in India are Ganesh, his little brother, Kartikeya, Shiva, Shakti, Vishnu, and Surya. Surya is the sun. So those are the ones that you'll see most often, but there are 33 million gods in Hinduism. So yeah, it's many, but they're the 6, the top 6. And but it goes with any religion, really, because if it's your favorite religion, it's going to keep you coming back. If it's your favorite, you're going to keep doing it. And that's the point. The point is to keep doing something over and over again. And so this is the 7th method. If the mind is disturbed, bring it back to the state of calm or one pointedness by choosing one of these 7 methods. These are known as safety nets, the safety nets for the yogi. But it's not the end, however. Unless we know the true state of consciousness in ourselves, it is not the end or the Kaivalya state, the freedom state. These methods only support you on your way there. They're safety nets in case you fall. Okay? It is in the 1st chapter, yes, the end, but these are considered safety nets. You're not going to get samadhi by having the 4 attitudes. Right? You're not going to get samadhi, but you will get peace of mind and clarity and thought. Okay. 40th Sutra. Para. Para means supreme or above. Para means the greatest. Manu means the smallest. Here, so Paramanu means the greatest of the small. So the most subtle, the subtlest form. What subtlest form refers to the Tanmatras? What are the Tanmatras? Now this goes back to Sankhya. Remember we talked about Sankhya. The Sankhya, the 24 principles, and then the Prakriti, and then Purusha. You know, at the very beginning, Prakriti and Purusha. There's consciousness, and then there's the manifest and unmanifest world, including the mind, senses, the earth, the 5 elements, the organs of action, speech, reproduction, and elimination, and the senses. All those is are Prakriti. And there are The most subtle ones are the ones closest to our inception and birth. So for example, the most gross ones, let's see here. Let's not get into that. Let's move on. So Parama, the greatest or highest. So he's saying the smallest to the highest. Mahatattva, the biggest principle, including the known and the unknown, the entire range of objective knowledge. Here, so these first few words are saying everything from the smallest to the greatest. The smallest referring to the smallest atom, the subatomic particles, even the stuff that is, well, I'm not a quantum physicist, but there's this idea of a field. There's a field. What do they call that field? It's a field from which everything arises in quantum physics. I forget the name of it. No. No, it sounds right, but no. It's I don't know. Okay, but anyways, but everything from the greatest to the smallest, the mind, Asya of this mind, the one that we were talking about here, Vashikara, to bring in its fold. Such a yogi's mind is capable of absorbing objects from the smallest to the greatest. In other words, when you've gotten the mind under your control, one-pointed, that you're able to stop the mind, then you're able to comprehend everything from the smallest to the greatest. He's talking about the quality of a yogic mind here. The quality of a yogi's mind. What is the range of a yogi's mind? And what is the result of this? What is the result? The result is the yogi's mind can pick up anything small or big. This deals with the yogi who has the mental capacities for two yogic states, ekagra, one-pointedness, and nirodha, which is a stoppage state. But who has fallen down to vikshepa, the fragmented or third state, this sutra tells the yogi how to get back, to see that he or she doesn't fall down again, and to regain the earlier higher yogic position. The 7 practices mentioned earlier will help the yogi to maintain that higher position of mental clarity. Again, the safety nets. So he's just referring, saying, hey, these are the safety nets that will keep you from falling off your pedestal, that where you can comprehend the full spectrum of objects in the world.
Is this talking about being omnipotent?
Is this talking about being omnipotent? Let's talk about omnipotence. Om was the Om. In the beginning, there was the word, there was the sound, and it was Om. Om is in omnipotent. It is in omniscient. And when you deny the existence of Om, you omit. So omnipotent refers to one who is all potent, right? One who's all potent. All powerful. Is that what that means? Omnipotent? All knowing. Omniscient is all knowing.
All knowing.
So you're saying omniscient or omnipotent? Did you say omnipotent?
I was thinking all knowing.
So that's omniscient, isn't it? I think omnipotent means all powerful, all potent. So omniscient is conscience, science. Knowledge. So omniscience is all knowing. Notice how there's om in those words. Om. Does this sutra refer to all knowing? It refers to the capacity to be all knowing. Yes. Full spectrum of knowledge, from the greatest to the smallest. Yes. But it's not saying that a yogi is all knowing. It's just a yogi's mind has the capacity to know it all. That would be omniscient. Fully aware, fully conscious. It's kind of like this. There's some people who walk in the room and they have like sort of this awareness of a racing horse. They've got these blinders and they can only be aware of what they see that's in front of them. Whereas some people can walk into the room and they can take a glance and they can have an awareness of the entire space, not just what they see with their eyes, but what they hear with their ears and what they can receive with the fascia body, with this antenna that we live in. Our bodies are antennas for sensations and vibrations. And someone who's fully aware can be so sensitive that they're more, and it seems to, for the person who has blinders on, that the person who doesn't have blinders on is omniscient, where they may not be necessarily omniscient, they just have a wider range of awareness. Does that make sense? So, so yeah, I mean, there are stories of some of these saints that seem to know things that people wouldn't normally know. Like if you listen to Ram Dass talk about Neem Karoli Baba, you guys ever listen to Ram Dass talk about Neem Karoli Baba? Anybody? He talks about how when he first met him, Bhagavan Das took him there to meet Neem Karoli Baba. He met him, and they didn't really have a whole lot of words. Ram Dass was out far away on a hill or something, thinking about his mother, and was having an emotional experience. And then later on, went to meet Neem Karoli Baba, and Neem Karoli Baba knew exactly what he was thinking about, and told him, like, you were thinking about your mother on the hill or something like that. You guys remember that talk? Anybody remember that? Right. So that's, these sort of things happen. I can't explain it. I can't explain it other than the sutra saying, hey, yeah, a yogi's mind can know things from the smallest to the largest. Omniscience, yeah, I mean, I don't know. My intellectual mind wants to doubt the fact that someone, or the idea that someone can be all-knowing, but maybe someone can be all-knowing. This is Patanjali talking. Yeah, I would say yes. This is probably omniscience here. Good call, Sarah. We're almost done with the first chapter. The first chapter has 50 sutras, 51 sutras. Let's see. Can we? We have 15 minutes. I wonder if we can go through these sutras. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. I have a lot of notes. So moving on. Now we're dividing into three groups. Kshina vritti. Kshina vritti means reduction of the chitta vrittis, reduction of the chitta vrittis. What are the chitta vrittis? Chitta vrittis are activities of the mind. So by reducing or destroying them, abhijatasya mane refers to the mind. The mind becomes like a high quality crystal, which I mentioned earlier. It behaves like a high quality crystal. What is that? Three groups here. Let's see here. What is this? Grahitra is the grasper, or this feeling of I. Here it refers to the I, the senses, the mind, which changes like the object. Grahana, the instruments of perception, and the graheshu, the objects that are grasped or seen. Tatsta, without movement, staying with the object. Tadan janata, the object sticks in the mind. They become inseparable. Is samapatihi, which is samadhi. So here he's saying identification. So this is like contemplation on the ego. In order for that to happen, you got to have three things. What are the three things? The observer, the instrument of perception, or the instrument of observing, and the object that is being observed. The three objects, when the three objects remain and stick together, then the mind is in a state of samadhi. In other words, whenever the mind is devoid of rajas and tamas, remember, rajas and tamas, the mind is fully sattvic or clear like a high quality crystal or a gem, is able to remain with the object and stuck with it. So for example, grahitra is this feeling that I exist. So this is not necessarily like the ego in the Western sense, right? Sometimes when we think of ego in the Western sense, we think of personality, right? Or the sum of one's memories and experiences, or behavior. But here, this is simply this feeling that the sense that I exist, the observer, the existence of I. And then through the senses, one gets to experience an object. Through the senses, this I gets to experience the object. The senses is also part of the mind. So when the mind is clear or the lens is clear, then the object is stuck within the mind exactly as it was. In other words, I see a circle, and I don't think tube or sphere or even circle. I just see this round object, and that object comes in, and that's what I am perceiving. I don't place a label on it, which actually gets into later. There's no naming, there's no word that comes up that identifies what I see. So to this point, the mind is so clear that it can absorb the object as it is and able to distinguish the three parts of perception. The one who is perceiving, the medium through which I'm perceiving, and then the object of perception. Does that make sense, you guys? This only can happen when the mind is clear. Or in a state of samadhi. A high quality crystal is so pure and white, it can completely absorb the color and reflection of an object without any distortion. Without distortion. This is a really important sutra in this sort of quest for I. Like, who am I? Who is this experiencer? So the question here arises, what am I doing? What am I doing right here? What am I doing? I'm teaching a class. That's what I'm doing. What am I experiencing? I'm experiencing that I'm teaching the class. So there are two I's in the previous sentence. There are two I's in the previous sentence. Who am I? Who is the am I the doer or the seer, the perceiver? I experience myself doing this thing, but I'm also doing this thing. You see the difference? There's a difference. So the question is, who am I? The issue is that most of us go through the world identifying with the doer, not the seer. And so when we get attached to this idea of who we are as a doer, we suffer tremendously when this doer no longer exists. If we have a good time doing something, we identify with it. And then if that's taken away, then we're no longer that doer. And who am I? Right? We see this with parenting all the time. Most of us, we go through life, if we become parents, we're lucky enough, we become parents, and then we identify with parenting, and then our children grow up, and then now what's left? Who am I? See it all the time. Who am I? I'm finding myself now. My kids are off. They have their own family. Now I need to find out who I am. And this is what yoga teaches us through a direct experience. With extreme concentration, a yogi can discriminate between the three, right? The I, the senses, and the object. Extreme concentration. 42. So now we're talking about different types of samadhi. He just kind of, we're not going to have time to finish this. There are different types of samadhi. First, he mentions an inferior samadhi, then he mentions a superior samadhi. Many types of samadhis here. Let's stop here and let's end with a short practice. So we're stopping at 42, guys. Please make note of that. Stopping at 42 Sutra, 42. Find a comfortable seat, put your head on straight. Close your eyes. Let's go ahead and drop in. So what we had just done over the past 90 minutes or so was a sattvic activity. Learning about Yoga Sutra is sattvic. So close your eyes and just kind of notice what you see, if anything at all. And so there is a part in you, when you close your eyes, there is a seer. And you are not seeing with your eyeballs. You are seeing with something else. What it is that you are seeing with is the perceiver, the observer, the drishta, according to the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the drishta, one who sees. The reason you're able to see is because there's light coming from the seer. There's light coming from the seer. Some of you see many colors. Some of you guys see many fragments, shapes, and things. Some of you see other things. Regardless of whatever it is you're seeing, it is a result of the light inside you. That light is you. And it's difficult to understand this because the I, E-Y-E, the I, the capital I, cannot see itself. The observer cannot see itself. It only sees objects. The observer is the subject. This is the difficulty. When we do something, we see ourselves doing it. So we identify with that. This is what he's talked about in the very beginning. We identify with the chittavrittis. When those activities slow down, you will either A, fall asleep, or B, have a moment of clarity. But you gotta slow, reduce, or according to Patanjali, destroy these vrittis. And when you engage in the practice of meditation on a regular basis, what happens is you will start to have flashes of memories from the past. The memories don't come from the future. Or your mind will create a fantasy world, a city, if you will, where things haven't happened yet, which is the future or possible future. The possible future scenarios are oftentimes solutions to the problems we currently have. So pay attention to them. The memories that come up have many purposes. They tell us what we should and shouldn't do if we want a particular result, if we know how to handle them. The quality of questions or statements that you make to yourself when experiencing these chitta vrittis determines the quality of your life. If you have a particular experience when you close your eyes, a memory perhaps, or a fantasy perhaps, and you make a statement, ask yourself, is that statement, or does that question bring me closer to my intention, my goal, or where I want to be? Does it serve me? If it doesn't serve me, if it puts me back into a loop, a spiral, if you will, then you need to change the quality of a question that you're asking or the statement that you're making. This self-talk that we experience on a daily basis determines the quality of the life we experience. A yogi, we are not yogis, but a yogi wants to destroy all of that. And the reason the yogi wants to destroy all that, because all of these things are distractions to a yogi's self-realization, or knowing who I am beyond the confines of this mind. You see? The observer, the drishta, the light that is you, is behind the projector screen. You are the light bulb in the projector. Your experience goes through the filter of your mind. And then you experience it, you identify with it, and you think it's real. But the yogis will argue, the Buddhists would argue, that it's not real. It's all Maya. It's all illusion. It's very convincing. It's a very convincing reality. But it's not real. The reason it's not real is because it changes. A yogi's quest is for what is real, what is unchanging, what is the truth. And in this world of change, there's one truth, one reality, and that reality is the light that is in you, the awareness that is there at the moment of birth in this body, that stays in and out of awareness until the body perishes. And if the truth is that energy can neither be destroyed nor created, and this light of awareness that is you is energy, then you, I, can neither be created nor destroyed. We can't be wet, we can't be burnt, and we can't be hurt. It is only the mind that is hurt, the ego that is hurt, and the body that is hurt. It is I that experiences pain, but that too shall pass. One more minute. Hands in prayer position. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Inhale for Om. Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Namaste.